Hello ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to a survival show special today where we're going to be taking a look at the game the day before. Now I got sent an email by the developers of this game saying pretty much that it's going to be coming out in maybe Q2, and if I'd like to take a look at it I might get a chance. Also just give me a heads up of what to expect. Then some of you guys jumped into a stream and said, Jade, you got to check out this trailer. This game just popped up. And I was like, I don't know, apocalyptic survival game with zombies. We've seen it all before. How good can it be? I checked out the trailer. Colour me intrigued. Yes, it does look pretty decent. It's kind of reminiscent of like The Division, but with actual proper zombies roaming around and an actual proper survival game. I am intrigued, but there are some notes of caution. So I'm going to give you the hype. I'm going to give you the info that I dug around and discovered about the developers of this game and some of their previous work, and you guys will help me decide whether or not it's something we should maybe take a look at deeper in the future. Whether it's coming to console, whether it's a brand new experience on PC, I'll always be the first person to let you guys know about it, proper release dates, info, guides, tutorials when it's released. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you've got notifications on, come join my Discord if you want to find out more about your favourite survival games. Let's take a look at the day before. So the trailer starts in a pretty bombastic way, lots of shooting going on, a few explosions and a zombie eating a corpse. The day before is framed around a pandemic that started off, and of course it's very much hitting home at the moment with the situation in the world. It's published by Mytona, can't say I've heard of them, but I do know Fantastic. They are the guys that made Wild 8. I don't know if you remember that one, I'm going to cover that a little bit later on. Now that's just appeared on PlayStation 4 recently. It actually got bought out by another company. So there are some notes of caution. I have to put this out there. I don't want to be just a hype merchant for devs without discussing their history, their past. But for sure, this trailer on its own merits looks fantastic. It does look like a game I could definitely get into. It's got that Division vibe, but it is a survival experience. It looks pretty simplistic at the moment as well. Obviously, this is all very early pre-alpha, I'm guessing. But they have kind of suggested that it's going to be coming out in Q2. As I said in the email that I've got, they've said that they are looking at that as an early access release, so fair play to them. I think they're a Russian development team with probably coordinating with other people all around the world to make their games, and they've had a few projects as well, not just the Wild 8 that have appeared in the last few years, successful, not successful. So we're going to cover that as well, but for sure, inventory and stuff is all seemingly placeholder stuff, designed maybe just to make it look interesting and simple enough. I imagine that'll all change. If it stays that simple, where it's just simply just drag and drop, put items there, I'll be all down for that. There's too many of these games take themselves way too seriously, like Scum and DayZ. You spend half your life sorting shit out in the inventory. I don't want that in a survival game. It's hard enough surviving against zombies, mutants, werewolves, whatever the hell it is. I don't want to struggle with an inventory system. Even on PC with mouse and keyboard, I still find it odd. The trailer has got a narrator over it, quite a slick one, a bit cheesy. Talks about this place being a hub. It is an MMO game. It's going to be a PvP game. It's going to be a co-op game. It's also going to be a single player game, according to what they've listed on Steam. Again, some of that may change, but that's what they've listed. So this is a trading spot that you might be able to go to, or there's one nearby anyway. And it looks pretty cool. It does. It looks nifty. Going and just grabbing stuff from a soda machine, quickly going into combat mode. Just the FYI, you can see on the left, you've got the temperature. I'm guessing some sort of stamina or stun bar. And then you've got, I guess, water, if I'm right. And then obviously just a simple health bar. So not particularly mentioning food, unless that middle icon is the food icon. And I'm just reading it right in my old man eyes. But yeah, the shooting looks pretty decent as well. These are meant to be other online players attacking you right now. They've got pretty heavily scripted voiceovers as well at the moment. But of course, you can see in the top left, you are in a voice chat with your buddy. And you're pretty much just going through the motions of how to escape this building and where your buddy might be. Quick looting obviously takes a few seconds, and then you can just simply just drag and drop any of the items you want. Very simple inventory screen. Like I said, I think this will all change. It's just simply there just to get the feel for the game, rather than maybe anything that's going to be like the finished product. But the temperature, the weather effects here are pretty stunning. I think the way things are moving around, the zero lag, just the environment's gorgeous. I will say it right now, they've made a fantastic little slice of a demo here, and it does look great because it does look like just gameplay. Again, heavily scripted, I'm gonna say, but for sure it still looks damn good for a small developer that have had some issues in the past. Now here we start to see more influence like World War Z and maybe Days Gone By, with the zombies all coming out of nowhere, big hordes of them. How are you going to manage that? Again, we can see healing up again. Seems pretty simplistic again. I love the idea of that. Can you tell? I really hate overcomplicated inventory systems. Maybe because at heart I'm still a console pleb. I just prefer playing with a controller. I like things to be simple, but this is pretty decent as well. Exploring skyscrapers and buildings, trying to get lots of loot while avoiding these hordes that remind me a little bit of I Am Legend as well. I mean, it is overplayed, the zombie theme, it is. But if it's done well, and that's always my big call to arms, when games like Scum have come out, or Deadside, even though it's the same old tired sort of thing where it's either mutants or zombies or whatever, as long as it's done well or they add something new, a little twist here and there, it can go far. But we've often seen that sometimes they just don't have enough of a twist. They're not making it original enough from other games that we've played for years, like DayZ and stuff. So that's what this kind of game needs to do. Now, third person, I think, is pretty fresh for a game like this. Often it's always just usually first. Again, it may be first in the future, we don't know. And they're just finishing off with the shot eating the zombie. So like I said, coming soon, apparently Q2. Yeah, it could be interesting. I'm sure they've reached out to a bunch of survival creators, so I'm sure loads of people are going to be doing videos on it in the next few days. But I thought I'd just get my 2 pence in there and show you the email that they sent me as well, with loads of information. So fair play to them reaching out and trying to set the groundwork and let people know about their game. Okay, so now comes the digging, and I've got to say, I'm not like some investigative journalist. I didn't have to go far. They've got everything up public. They've made a couple of games in the past. In fact, they've made 3 by the looks of things, major ones. By the looks of things, their most recent thing has been some sort of cute, maybe indie exploration game, and then this one caught my eye, Dead Dozen. It launched in early access in 2018, so a long time ago. You know, being a small development team, it's really hard to get any traction, and to get a success for your game first time out is incredibly rare, incredibly lucky. Not everyone is gonna be huge and big with their first games. But what I like about some of the gameplay footage here shown is that obviously they've spent time looking at interiors and how things will work with creatures and basically shooting, and how it works with teams as well. So this obviously didn't end up being a successful thing. It looks like it was abandoned pretty rapidly after its launch. It was expensive when it did launch, and they did have some issues with community management, with people complaining they'd been banned from chat rooms and discussions simply by saying that the game wasn't that great. So I won't hold that against them too much. Like I said, you are going to have some fails. It's just about how you adapt, how you respond to that, and have you learned your lessons. We all make mistakes. We all have a hard time getting something out there. And, you know, I know from experience covering so many survival games and games in general in early access, it's a miracle that you even get this far sometimes. So fair play. They didn't maybe have success with this one. I then dug around their website a little bit more, and I come across the Wild 8. And I thought, yeah, I do recognise this developer's name. They made this game, but they sold it off to Hyperscape Digital, and they're the guys that ended up porting it over to the PS4 a few months ago. I covered it briefly on my channel. I told you guys it was coming out in a few survival shows, and I gave you guys just a little first impressions. And it was okay, but there was some issues with it. It didn't have multiplayer. They basically ported it over with only a single player, and the Wild 8 was meant to be like a massively multiplayer game. No, I don't mean an MMO, I mean just as it's meant to rely on co-op. You're meant to be able to play with up to 8 players as you survive in the cold when your plane has crashed, and that's the whole hook of the game. So when they sold it on, whoever's decided to bring it to console kind of missed the whole point of the game. So of course I then have to dig around a little bit more, and I find out that basically the developers back in like 2017, after a fairly decent successful early access launch, they had some internal issues with their company, people I guess having differences, and they ended up selling it to their publisher. So Hypertrain was always the publisher, they sold it, the rights to them, and they went off to make that Dozen game, the Dead Dozen. So obviously it wasn't very successful since the Dead Dozen flopped pretty hard. Hypertrain spent a bit of time trying to find someone else to take it on board. They eventually did, and the response really wasn't that great. In the last couple of years, the Wild 8 barely received any updates. So I was surprised when it came out of early access last year. So I think it's important to mention this. You know, we've got a development team that had problems, had issues. For all intents and purposes, whatever way you want to look at it, abandoned their game that was maybe starting off pretty well in early access and had maybe a good bright future ahead of them, and the publisher ended up taking it on and making a kind of a bit of a mess of it. It's a fairly decent game, but like I said, without that multiplayer component, it's just not really that great. So anyway, hope that's cleared. They went on to make the Dead Dozen. It wasn't successful. They maybe tried to fix things a little bit with the poor communication and the issues they had in maybe being a bit zealous with criticism. And now it looks like they've gone away for a couple of years and they've been working on this. So, cautiously optimistic. It looks fantastic. It looks amazing. City environments like this in survival games are incredibly hard to do. They're incredibly hard to do in any game. That's why Ubisoft have like 5,000 people working on all their games like these. Well, maybe not that many, but you get the idea. So a small team, I imagine, from a little development studio somewhere northern hemispheres of Siberia. I think that's where they're from. Yeah, hats off to them to making it look so far, just this little gameplay slice, look great, look good, decent, and it looks pretty, robust. Like the combat looks pretty okay. It looks pretty simple to get into. It's not something you're going to be like a skill cap like Tarkov or something stupid like that. It's got something I think that can appeal to everyday gamers, not just some hardcore survival or military, fans. Like I said, the talk over voiceover says things about you get radio chatter that will come through telling you to go to certain locations. So maybe there's going to be quests and stuff. As I said, they are promising single player on the Steam page, and they are saying it's a massive MMO though. So, a lot of questions to be answered. I think I will respond to them by email. Hopefully, they'll do maybe a little Q&A session with me, or we can even do an interview or something like that, and we can get to the bottom of some of their problems they've had and what they've learned and where they're going to take it forward. One last exciting thing, looking at their website, it does show that there's going to be more environments than just the city. It is going to be a case of a big MMO with a big world to explore. FYI, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning when I'm doing this video, so excuse me if I rambled on just a little bit more than I normally do. I am interested. I will let you guys in the know about this game for the future. My name is Jade. I'll see you ratbags later.